Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to part 2 of our look at the 2011-2012 Los Angeles Kings. On this episode of Anatomy of a Season, we look at the Kings team in the playoffs. If you haven't checked out part 1, the link is in the description as well as in the corner of the video. However, here is a quick recap. The LA Kings entered the season as a team that many felt would likely make the playoffs, but like they have in the previous 2 seasons, are simply just filling a spot and better teams will rise to the top. Coached by veteran bench boss Terry Murray, the Kings were team heavy on defense led by superstar Drew Doughty, along with Jack Johnson, veteran Willie Mitchell, fan favorite Matt Green, reliable Alec Martinez, Rob Scuderi who brings Stanley Cup experience, and rookie Slava Voinov. They also had one of the league's best goaltenders, Jonathan Quick. Their forward core was filled with talent, two-way superstar Anze Kopitar, team captain Dustin Brown, and capable Justin Williams. They had grinders such as Dustin Penner, Jared Stoll, Kyle Clifford, Colin Fraser, Brad Richardson, and Trevor Lewis. The Kings' forward core was again loaded with talent, but not with goals. To fix that, however, they added Flyer stars Mike Richards and Simon Gagne to the team. Gagne, however, got hurt after 34 games and has been cleared to play since after concussion issues. Richards, while playing great defensively, isn't racking up huge numbers. The team can't fully find their footing, but don't completely sink either at the same time. But Murray is fired as coach. Another veteran guy, Darryl Sutter, is brought in. At first, the results look good, but then things get a little bad again. Despite Jonathan Quick having an MVP caliber season, the defense holding up their end, the talent up front, who again was good but not good enough, the wins are becoming few and far between. And the Kings find themselves sitting out of a playoff spot in 10th place, going into the final month and so of the season. They sacrificed defenseman Jack Johnson to obtain another former Flyer All-Star, Jeff Carter, from Columbus. He can score goals. They had Jordan Nolan and Dwight King to the club as well late in the season to add more depth, but then something happens. Carter plays pretty good, but it's the top guns Kopitar, Williams, and Brown who respond to his arrival. And the Kings only suffer 4 regulation losses in the last 18 games of the season and clinch the 8th and final playoff spot with a record of 40, 27, and 15 for 95 points. Very good. But again, they're just here to fill a spot, right? With no offense, they have no chance. Sure, they have a great penalty kill, a so-so power play. This is nowhere near enough to make a champion. And in the first round, they of course had to face the best in the West. Actually, they're facing the best in the league, the Vancouver Canucks, who had the best record in the entire NHL with 51, 22, and 9 for 111 points. They were the defending Western Conference champion and a year removed from their heartbreaking Stanley Cup final loss to the Boston Bruins a year prior. They were the perfect bunch this season. Coached by Alain Vigneault, they were led by the twin powers of Daniel and Henrik Sedin, also two-way player Ryan Kessler, the hardworking Alex Burrows, and a plethora of character players, Yannick Hansen, Chris Higgins, Manny Malhotra, David Booth, Maxime Lapierre, and late season acquisitions Sam Holson. On defense, an excellent core, the highly skilled Kevin Biesca, big Alex Edler, the man known as Dan Ham, and Sammy Salo. In net, they had one of the best in the game, Roberto Luongo, who was looking to erase that choker label that, as some say, he'd been unfairly given. Also, he had a very talented backup in Corey Schneider. This was going to be the Canucks' year. They are ready to shake out the disappointment that has plagued them. But Daniel Sedin is out of action. That could be a major factor the Kings could exploit. Last time these two faced each other in the playoffs was 1993, when the Kings made their miracle run to the Stanley Cup Finals and beat them in the second round. And this season they have split 2 games apiece. And now we're ready to start the playoffs. Game 1, a sold-out, towel-waving crowd at Rogers Arena in Vancouver is ready to see their boys make another run for it all. And it looks good for the Canucks early, actually, as Alex Burrows scores for them just over 4 minutes in. The Kings are firing in on Luongo every chance they get, and their persistence pays off, however. On the extra man advantage, Doughty anchors a power play, gets it to Kopitar to Mike Richards. He gets the goal. The Kings tie things up 1-1 to end the first period. In the second period, however, the Canucks start trying to put pressure on Quick, but he is just awesome in there. Penner, Stoll, and King are containing Sedin and Kessler with close coverage, while Kopitar is also playing all sides of the ice. The Kings get another chance on the power play as the period is winding down. Williams leads the rush, getting it to Martinez to Willie Mitchell. He indeed scores, and the Kings take a 2-1 lead. but then an Alex Edler goal with 8 seconds left in the frame ties the game 2-2 after 2. The third period saw Luongo and Quick making some big saves, and the Kings defense led by Doughty and Mitchell get in the way of everything that the Canucks had tried. The game was a tight-knit battle, still tied at 2 as time was winding down with 3:14 to play. The former Flyers, Richards and Carter, set up Dustin Penner, parking at home. The Kings silence the Canucks faithful and lead 3-2. The Canucks press for the equalizer, but Quick is on his game. The net is empty. The former Flyers then get it to Dustin Brown, who notches the empty netter with 18 seconds to play. Wow, a shocking turn of events. The Kings take game 1 on the road 4-2. What a huge game from Richards. A goal and 2 assists for 3 points, while Carter played big with 2 assists, as Quick was rock solid in net. Just an overall solid game from the underdog Kings. But again, we've seen this before, right? Underdog clubs can take a game, especially the first game, from top tier teams. However, the Canucks mean business in Game 2, and they are giving Jonathan Quick no breathing room, and the Kings defense cannot contain this Canucks onslaught. While the chances the Kings get on Luongo are all being turned away as the opening period is winding down. Mitchell gets called for holding, but that amazing Kings penalty kill goes to work. With 9 seconds left in the frame, Kopitar sends it into Brown. He solves Robbie at last. The Kings lead 1-0 after 1. However, off the opening rush, Henrik sets up Hansen just 17 seconds into the second period. The game is tied at 1. But again, Mitchell, the former Canuck no less, is in the box, and Dustin Brown takes the puck away from the Canucks onslaught, and he goes in a big individual effort. He scores his second goal, his second shorthanded goal of the game. Remarkable. The Kings lead 2-1, and Quick is still facing a barrage of shots, and he is just a machine out there, working tirelessly to keep the Kings leading this thing, and it remains 2-1 after 2. The Canucks are getting frustrated. Quick is almost making it look oh so easy. But now on the other side of the power play, actually having one, that is, Brown gets it to Williams, over to Stoll. He scores an Endy, and the Kings are leading 3-1. And with time winding down, Penner sets up Trevor Lewis, which is over 5 minutes ago. What is happening here? 4-1 Kings? This is indeed the Canucks get one back, but it matters very little. Another 4-2 win. And what an amazing night for team captain Dustin Brown. 2 goals, both shorthanded, an assist on the power play. And speaking of amazing, Jonathan Quick, 46 saves. Wow. Could this actually be happening? The Kings formula that has been on and off all season is actually working here. They take both road games to start the series and lead 2-0 as we head to Hollywood. Game 3, the Staples Center is the loudest perhaps it has ever been for a hockey game. It seems the momentum at the end of the season has carried over into these playoffs. Now Corey Schneider is in the net for the Canucks, and there's a feeling in LA for a hockey team that hasn't been felt in a long time. Hope. And once again, Jonathan Quick is a warrior. The Canucks are pressuring him in a huge way as the Kings are having trouble getting to Schneider. The Canucks are switching up their strategy, and while they are successful in controlling the Kings forwards, they are not successful in being able to solve their goaltender. And it's scoreless after the first period. In the second period, the Kings aren't getting many great chances, but the Canucks are. But Quick is saying no way to Henrik. Forget it, Raymond. And Burrows, you can't score on me. And it remains scoreless after 2. And Schneider is now making big saves for the Canucks despite facing less action. And in the third period, it's a mystery of who is going to strike. It seems the Canucks are likely to have their efforts finally pay dividends. But 6.5 minutes into the third period, the top dogs are unleashed. Kopitar, Williams, Dustin, it's a goal. The Kings finally strike, but Quick does not let up. He still turns everything back, and that's all they need. A huge playoff shutout. 41 saves for Jonathan Quick, who was given a standing ovation and well-deserved from Kings fans at the end of the game. They are on the verge of a sweep. I mean, they had the best team in the NHL against the wall and winless in a playoff series with a 3-0 series lead. This is truly incredible. Nobody saw this coming except for perhaps themselves and probably their fans. The Kings are just one game away doing what seemed improbable and impossible. And their first playoff series win in what would be 11 years could be on its way. Game 4. The Staples Center is shaking to its very core. The possibility of sweeping the best team in the league has Kings fans amped. What a huge coup this would be. Oh my goodness, advancing past the first round for the first time in over a decade. Quick has gotten them this far in this series. Can he do it again? He looks great in the first period, as the Kings are actually putting even more pressure on Schneider than they did in the last game, but the Canucks have a boost as Daniel Sedin is back in the lineup. But after 13 minutes of action, it's Kopitar, who actually missed the playoffs last year due to injury. He gets a goal. It's 1-0 Kings, and Quick again holds them in. It's 1-0 after 1. But now it seems Schneider is playing the role of Jonathan Quick. He is now stopping everything that's being thrown at him. And the Canucks forwards respond. On a power play, Edler ties the game. And nearly 4.5 minutes later, Kevin Biesca gives the Canucks the lead. The Kings are pressing but getting nothing going, and they trail 2-1 after 2. And then on a power play early in the third period, Henrik Sedin scores. It's 3-1 Vancouver. The Kings just can't apply any more pressure. A big buzzkill to the hometown crowd. A 3-1 loss. And that's what the series is at now as well. 3-1 for the Kings. The Canucks stay alive and force the series to move back to Vancouver. The Kings didn't really play bad here. It just was Schneider's night. And the Canucks found ways to get the Quick, as the return of Daniel Sedin certainly didn't hurt matters. However, the critics came out again. Lack of scoring is called out. Richards and Carter disappeared after Game 1, it seemed. Doughty isn't playing up to expectations. Blah, 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 blah. They're up 3-1. Ugh. Anyway, back in Vancouver, the towel waving is in full force for Game 5. The Kings ignore the dolts sharing a brain thinking they're in danger and remain focused on the word go. And both teams are playing tried and true full force playoff hockey. It's exciting. Both getting big chances, both goalies shining. But the Canucks strike first as Daniel sets up brother Henrik on the power play. It's 1-0 Canucks after 1. Schneider continues his momentum from the last game and is stopping everything in sight from everyone. And the Kings, however, are not losing their cool, but are still searching for that equalizer and can't get it. They remain down 1-0 after 2 periods. Oh boy. But fear not, as early in the third, Doughty finds Brad Richardson, who ties the game, and Quick bars the door, but so does Schneider. For the first time in the series and in these playoffs for the Kings, we are headed to overtime. And 4:27 after, tremendous checking from Trevor Lewis, who kept up on Hamhuis, I don't know, as he tried to get the puck out of his zone, managed to take him down, strip him of the puck. Jarrett Stoll carries back in, and he shoots, he scores! The Los Angeles Kings have just beaten the President Trophy's winners in 5 games! Quick and his clutch goaltending were superb, and Jarrett Stoll is the hero in this one. The Kings, for the first time since 2001, are headed to the second round, pulling off a monster upset of the defending Western Conference champion in an epic fashion. Yes, you win as a team, you lose as a team, and the Kings truly won this one as a team. And again, the scoring wasn't high octane, but it was enough. And while that formula was what many said held the Kings back from being an upper tier team, it tremendously helped them this go-round. Dustin Brown truly took command of his ship as the captain led the team with 5 points, with his 4 goals also a team best. Kopitar played very well, a goal and 3 helpers, while Williams and his playoff savvy allowed him to notch 4 assists, tying Kopitar for, again, second best on the team. Despite awesome game ones, Carter and Richards may have disappeared off the score sheet, but still contributed in a big way, as Stahl, Penner, and Lewis were really good on the grind, as Dwight King did have a little trouble finding his footing at first, but eventually adjusted as the series went on. Either way, this is true 4-line hockey. Browns +4 led the team in the series, further emphasizing he was the best forward in this series, bar none. On defense, Mitchell and Doughty each had 2 points, and were both excellent. But again, like the regular season, perhaps Mitchell was slightly better again in that regard. Martinez, Scuderi, Green, and Voinov were also excellent in this series, again showing that trademark tenacity that the Kings' defense has had all year. And yet again, Jonathan Quick, who was bombarded in both games 2 and 3, was fantastic. His clutch performance in the series-deciding Game 5 shows he does have the prowess for playoff hockey. He played in all 5 games, going 4-1, getting the big shutout in Game 3, and a goals against average of just 1.59. And yes, I mean just in the most positive way, obviously. Much like he has all season, he is proving he is the most valuable player. So now, for the first time in 11 years, we're off to the second round. However, awaiting them was a team that's definitely playoff ready, the St. Louis Blues. And how fitting is it that the only two of the 5 teams remaining from 1967's next 6 expansion are both looking for their first Stanley Cup in history. Traditionally, as a whole, the Blues have probably done a lot better as a franchise historically, but they haven't appeared in a Stanley Cup since 1970, or a conference final since 2001. The Blues had the second best record in the West, 49, 22, and 11 for 109 points, and second best record in the NHL. They got off to a wonky start, but hired a man who knows a thing or two about winning, head coach Ken Hitchcock. The Blues then went on a tear the rest of the year. Now, much like the Kings, however, they're not really a good goal-scoring club that way in terms of regular season success, only scoring 16 more goals than the Kings did all year. But they have a team of defensive-minded forwards that were, utilized well under Hitchcock's system. Big man David Bex, hard-working TJ Oshie. They tied the team lead in points. And many depthful character players, David Perron, Patrick Berglund, Chris Stewart, and Alex Steen made up a solid bunch of players. You add in 18-season veteran Jason Arnott and 17-season vet Jamie Langenbrunner, both bring Stanley Cup experience with 2 rings each. You got a really good core up front. But like the Kings, the heart of this team is their defense, led by all-star Alex Pietrangelo, as well as a reliable Kevin Shattenkirk, Carlo Koliakovo, easy for me to say, the punishing Barrett Jackman, and Roman Polak. This is a winning blue line core right up there with the Kings in many ways. And like the Kings, their goaltending is outstanding. As a matter of fact, the Blues are the only team to allow less goals than the Kings did all year, with the amazing duo of Brian Elliott and Yaroslav Halak. So basically, despite these two being defensive-minded clubs, what it's really going to come down to is whose offense is better. But in turn, also, whose goaltending is more clutch in a playoff situation. The Blues disposed of the Sharks in 5 games, so here we go. Game 1 of Scottrade Center in St. Louis, full of fans who are also hungry for their team to finally make championship history after 45 long-suffering years. They're amped up for the opening game. It's good old-fashioned competitive hockey with the Blues strike first midway through the first, however, with 3 minutes left in the first period, Mike Richards and Dustin Penner assist on a goal from Slava Voinov. The rookie gets his first career playoff goal. We are tied up at 1-1. Both Jonathan Quick and Brian Elliott are outstanding in net, and in the second period, the exciting battle for the puck and who will strike next has fans eager. Time is winding down in the second as the Kings are killing a penalty. Dustin Brown makes a play that allows Matt Green to score a short-handed goal. That devastating Kings penalty kill strikes again. It's 2-1 LA after 2. In the third, the Blues are pressing but not getting past Quick. Also, Elliott not allowing the Kings to build on their lead. However, the Blues have an extra attacker as they pull Elliott, but with 15 seconds left, Penner gets the empty netter. It's a big 3-1 win for the Kings as they take Game 1. A great collaborative effort all around from the Kings on this night. Everyone working together to produce in every way possible. It pays dividends as the Kings thus far haven't lost on the road. Quick again is outstanding in net. Game 2, the Blues faithful, however, are still fired up, and both teams after a competitive first game are ready for more this go-round, but nobody expected this to happen. Just 31 seconds in, Penner gives a great feed to Richards, and he scores. It's already 1-0. Now, okay, that's not out of the realm of possibility, but what happened late in the period, well, the Kings' penalty kill comes to life again. Brown, leading the way, gets the puck out to Kopitar, who scores a beauty. And I know the Kings scoring a shorthanded goal to make a 2-0 lead isn't out of the realm of possibility either, but 4:21 later, Richards to Penner to Carter. 1:06 later, Dustin and Justin to Kopitar. Another goal for the Kings top 4. 4-0 after 1. Yes, the Kings lit up Brian Elliott, a man who had a goals against average of barely over 1.5 this season. And now all the Kings have to do is play that defensive strategy and make the Blues play catch-up. However, 18 seconds into the next period, they do get a goal to break Quick shutout, but then 1:08 later, Green begins to play, then Brown, then Justin Williams scores. 5-1 LA. They stick to the strategy. It works. The Blues get one back in the third period, however, but Quick is superb. And the Kings' hot streak continues. A huge 5-2 win. An amazing game all around with the silver and black squad. The big guns all around came out shooting up front. Captain Dustin Brown, a monster game. 3 assists. Kopitar with 2 goals. Penner, Richards, and Williams each with 2 points. Carter with a big goal. Quick again. What more can you say with him in net? What is going on here in these playoffs? The Kings have a 2-0 series lead once again heading home. Game 3, the Los Angeles fans are more excited than they have been in years. The defense has tightened up even more so as the Blues aren't getting too many chances at quick. And Elliott is also not being bombarded, however. And the teams are playing their style, but then Kopitar, Doughty to Williams, he scores. It's 1-0 Kings after 1:13 of the second period, however, Chris Stewart ties it for the Blues, but 40 seconds later, Matt Green sets up Dwight King, and just like that, it's 2-1. The Kings power play, which again all season has been average, actually delivers on this day. Doughty anchors it, Kopitar continues it, and Richards finishes it. It's 3-1 LA after 2. But early in the third period, Stewart gets a second of the game to keep the Blues in it and within a goal. But just over 3.5 minutes later, it's Mike to Jeff to Drew. He scores. 4-2 Kings, and wow, a 3-0 series lead again. A monster night for Drew Doughty. 3 points, a goal, and 2 helpers. Kopitar continues to roll with 2 assists. Richards playing well in these playoffs so far. Has 1 each for 2 points. Wow. And as Green and Scuderi continue to shine on defense, the Kings are on the verge of sweeping the second best team in the league and advancing to their first conference final since 1993. And the Kings faithful is shaking the Staples Center to its core for Game 4. As many are carrying brooms hoping for the sweep, and the Kings are fired up. And it only takes 4:36 in when Dustin Penner sets up fourth liner Jordan Nolan, who gets his first playoff goal. What a moment for that youngster. However, the Blues tie it up to a goal from Shattenkirk. But as the first period winds down, Doughty, a check, a Kopi, a check. Dustin Brown scores. It's 2-1 Kings after 1. The atmosphere at the Staples Center is at a fever pitch, but the Blues are tightening up in a big way, but the Kings aren't giving them much to work with either. Their checking game is on point. Penner, that's what I meant to say. Penner is an absolute tiger out there. King is also dishing out some hard checks. Scuderi, Green, and Mitchell making things difficult for the Blues, as is Jonathan Quick making those big stops when he has to, and it remains 2-1 after 2. The third period is much of the same. The top dogs, Kopitar and Brown, are grinding to the core. Jared Stoll doing whatever it takes to control the puck. Quick again making those huge stops as the Blues are pressing to not quit in this series. They pull Elliott for the extra attacker, and time is winding down, but Green doing what he does best, that's protecting his goalie. Gets out of the zone to Kopitar to Captain Dustin. Gets his empty netter as the Staples Center explodes into cheers. 3-1 Kings. The time finally ticks down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The Los Angeles Kings, for the first time in 19 years, are going to the conference final. Another huge game from Brown and Kopitar, 2 goals and 2 assists respectively. The defensive core was top-notch, led by Doughty. Quick again making those sensational stops. The Kings have not only beaten and eliminated the 2 best teams in the league, but they've dominated them. They have a playoff record of 8-1 currently. It's one thing to beat the President's Trophy winners in 5, but then to sweep the second best team that was just behind them and score 15 goals in 4 games on the team that gave up the least amount of goals in the league? Also, when it came down to it, Darryl Sutter outcoached Ken Hitchcock, which was definitely going to be a major factor in getting an edge in this series, such as this, and with 2 teams that are very similar. And again, despite the defensive mentality, which was obviously still key in this series, of course, it did come down to which team could score more often. And the Kings, in the end, even on paper, had the better core of forwards in that regard. Even though the Blues have more goals this season, we need to keep in mind, however, that some of these forwards weren't delivering at the high expectations as some expected during parts of the season. However, one who often was Anze Kopitar, and he and team captain Dustin Brown, who had an outstanding series in every facet of the game, each had 2 goals and 4 assists for 6 points to tie the team lead in scoring. Mike Richards may not have the year many were expecting, and he may not deliver statistically as much in the opening series as many had hoped, but this is what he was pretty much brought here to do. Use that playoff savvy, and it worked. It's been working these entire playoffs so far. He too was great on all ends of the ice, and that's what matters, as his 5 points were tied for third best on the team with Dustin Penner, who was remarkable in this series with his two-way play. He was everywhere and anywhere they needed him to be, played with such a warrior spirit, and that's what wins you a playoff series. Justin Williams continues to play very well, while Jeff Carter did pretty good too. He has yet to really break out scoring-wise. Also, much credit has to go to Dwight King and Jarrett Stoll for their play and their heart on that ice. Also, Trevor Lewis came up big in many moments for the club. Drew Doughty was incredible in this series as well, playing some of the best hockey of his career. He led the series with a huge +6, not to mention the incredible performance in Game 3, and once again was tied for defenseman scoring, this time with Matt Green, as they each had a goal and 3 assists for 4 points, and both Blue Liners were working tirelessly to keep their team in every single game and protect that lead. However, a lot of credit has to go to veterans Rob Scuderi and Willie Mitchell, who both bring that traditional defensive prowess to the table and were fearless out there. Also, Slava Voinov continues his awesome rookie campaign, while Alec Martinez has proven to be quite a factor as well. Jonathan Quick is a marvel in these playoffs, played every minute of this second round much like he did in the first, and was just excellent throughout, allowing just 6 goals in 4 games, meaning he has a literal goals against average of 1.5. And in this series, he and his defense worked oh so well together, and he had the focus of a jungle cat when it came to stopping that puck. Once again, despite literally everyone playing fantastically, he is still the MVP of this club. And here we go, Western Conference Final. The Kings' miracle run continues, and now it's against their division rivals and division champions, no less, making their first conference final appearance in their team's history. That's dating back to their days in Winnipeg as well, the Phoenix Coyotes. After a sluggish start, the Coyotes went on a tear in February, going undefeated in regulation. They finished the year 42, 27, and 13 for 97 points, just 2 ahead of the Kings. Still, one of their best years in their history. Now, dating back to their origins in Winnipeg, they had only won 2 playoff series in their franchise history. Ouch. The last being in 1987. In this playoff round, however, they have overcome the powerful Chicago Blackhawks in 6 games and took out the Nashville Predators in 5, winning as many playoff series in one postseason as they have in their prior 32 NHL seasons. Well, the Coyotes aren't an offensive juggernaut either. They are more formidable than the Kings were in the regular season, and they're also more formidable than the previous adversaries, the Blues. Led by reliable team captain Shane Doan, one of the best leaders in the game, and 40-year-old ageless wonder Ray Whitney, who had one of the best years of his entire career, an all-star caliber season. You had Czech stars Radim Vrbata, Martin Hansel, 16-year veteran Damon Lankow, Finnish import Lauri Korpikoski, I apologize for these butchering of these names, gritty grinder Rafi Torres, got that one right at least, and Anton Vermette, hey, got that one right too. On defense, you had Iron Man Keithy Ando, Rusty Klesla, I don't know. Oliver Ekman Larson, got that one right. Veteran Derek Morris, and 17-year veteran Adrian Aucoin. Got about half there. And like the Kings, the Coyotes had strength in goaltending. All-star Mike Smith. If I butchered that name, you can feel free to slap me. He won 38 games all season and is one of the most talented in the game at this time. They were coached by Dave Tippett, and the Coyotes are eager to erase their long-suffering history as well. The Kings, however, have a much storied history than they have, that's for sure. But experts are taking the Kings seriously, and they're also not writing off the Coyotes. So here we go. Game 1 at the Jobbing.com Arena. Yes, I'm not making that up. Anyway, Coyotes fans are out in full force, and yes, I'm not making that up either. But the Kings strike first. Early on, Doughty and Brown set up Kopitar for a goal. However, Morris tied the game, and it remained 1-1 after 1. The Kings are bombarding Smith, and he's making huge saves, while Quick is also turning some big chances away from them. And then it's Lewis to Richards to King! The Kings again lead, this time 2-1. But again, Phoenix ties the game. It's 2-2 after 2. The Kings continue to barrage Smith with shots, and it results in Williams and Voinov anchoring a rush, and Brown completes it for his 7th goal these playoffs. Quick is just keeping the Kings in it, and Smith isn't allowing the lead to build, and so as time winds down, the Phoenix net is empty. Stolen Lewis get the puck out, and King scores his 2nd goal of the game, an empty netter, and the Kings take game 1, a huge game from King, who is proving to be quite an asset and a weapon out there for the Kings in these playoffs. Brown continued to roll. Trevor Lewis had 2 helpers. The Kings just look amazing. Game 2, the Kings are eager to continue their success on the road, and once again, Phoenix's defense seems to be powerless against the onslaught of the Kings. Smith is feeling like a man in a firing squad at this point, while the LA defense and Jonathan Quick was stopping everyone and everything. Then to open it up, Lewis to Doughty to King! He crowns Smith with a goal, and the Kings hang on to a 1-0 lead after 1. In the second period, Richards to Penner to Carter, and the Kings lead 2-0. Smith is doing everything he can to keep the Coyotes in this, but their offense is not responding. Ray Whitney has been completely shut down, it seems. And Quick is making huge save after monster save again and again. And then on the power play, Williams has it. He gets it to Kopitar to Carter. His second goal of the game. The Kings lead 3-0. In the third period, Quick makes some more big stops. But then on the power play, let's see. Kopitar, yep. Brown, yep. And with the hat trick, Jeff Carter. Quick gets the shutout win, stopping 24 shots with the big story is Jeff Carter. He finally breaks out goal-wise with a hat trick. The Kings played the perfect game. Kopitar also continues to shine with 2 assists as the Kings stay undefeated in these playoffs on the road. And once again, lead the series 2-0 as they have yet to trail any playoff series in these playoffs. Once again, Game 3, we shift to Los Angeles, and the Kings fans are getting more and more excited, and who can blame them? They haven't seen this much success in their team since the Gretzky days. However, the Coyotes' defensive strategy has tightened up significantly, but the Kings are still having good chances at Smith, but not able to capitalize, while Jonathan Quick gets some significant breathing room from Doughty and company, but the game remains sadly contested in a battle for puck control, and it's scoreless after 1. But just over a minute into the second, Lanko scores, and the Coyotes have their first lead of the series. As a matter of fact, it's the first time the Kings have trailed since Game 1 of the second round against St. Louis. But it doesn't last, as it's Dustin to Kopitar. It's a goal. The game just like that is tied, but Smith is making saves, and the Kings are playing a very tight checking game and chasing that puck. It remains 1-1 after 2, and then 1:47 into the third. Jarrett to Trevor to the White King, baby! 2-1 Kings. The Coyotes press and press, but they can't solve quick. The Los Angeles Kings are just 1 game away from making the Stanley Cup for the second time in their history, and the first time since, yes, 1993. The Kings have done an amazing job in trapping Ray Whitney from producing at all in this series, and that has been the key to their success in a big way. And what about these fans? The ovation the Kings fans gave their boys was almost deafening. The pride that hasn't been felt in a long time in that arena for a team not called the Lakers is finally happening. Yes, they beat the 2 top-ranked teams in the conference. Can they beat the 3rd? Game 4, not just the Staples Center, but the whole city of LA is amped up for this, and the Kings come out flying, but Mike Smith is again a wall in net, but we're still waiting for that goal to come. However, Shane Doan strikes on a power play for the Coyotes late in the first period, and the Kings trail 1-0 after 1. The Kings defense is playing great again, and Quick is still making some great stops, but in the second period, this time on even strength, Doan gets him again, and for the first time since their Game 4 loss to the Canucks in the opening round, they trail by 2 goals. It's 2-0 after 2. The Kings try everything to get to Smith, and they would seem to have better luck with a force field in this game. Doan and the Coyotes killed a buzz of an entire town thanks to Shane Doan and a red-hot goaltender in Mike Smith, as the Kings' playoff win streak is stopped at 8 games. And while the Kings didn't play bad necessarily, they need to continue their attack on Smith, and they hope to extinguish his fire in net. But we head back to the desert for Game 5, and it looks bad early as Taylor Pyatt scores a power play goal for Phoenix, and around the midway point of the period, the Kings get called for too many men on the ice and are left to kill a penalty, and oh wait, that's not a bad thing. Brown, okay, good. Doughty, yes, Kopitar scores a shorthanded goal. The Kings penalty killers again are just remarkable in these playoffs. It's tied 1-1 after 1, as both Quick and Smith are making those big saves. The Coyotes regain the lead, however, early in the second, but then Williams and Frazier set up Drew Doughty, baby, for the goal. And we are deadlocked at 2 But 2:37 later, it's Carter to Penner to Richards, who has been relatively quiet in this series scoring-wise. The Kings lead 3-2, but just under 3 minutes later, Yandel ties it for the Coyotes. In the third period, both teams are pushing and pushing, but Smith and Quick are pushing back. Nobody can get anything in the nets of the opposition. Time is winding down, and for only the second time in these playoffs, the Kings are going to overtime. Again, both teams are putting on the pressure. So many thrilling close calls. Gasped by the fans in the arena. Gasped by fans watching in California. And with 2:18 remaining in the first overtime, after a neutral zone face-off, Voinov has the puck. He's hit along the boards, but it gets to Carter, who gets the shot away. And the rebound comes to Dustin Penner. And the Los Angeles Kings are going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Dustin Penner is the hero. The Coyotes fans and the team themselves were seething, claiming that Richards had made a hand pass on the rebound, but it didn't seem to hold any water to that argument, as despite the intense series handshake after, the Kings are the victors. They had done what was thought to be impossible, made it to the Stanley Cup Finals with a 12-2 record in these playoffs, and dominating the top 3 ranked teams in their conference, including 2 of the teams with the best 2 records in the entire NHL. It was a 3-way tie for who led the team in scoring for 5 points, as indeed Jeff Carter finally broke loose in terms of scoring with that big hat trick in Game 2. And indeed, those 3 goals, those 2 helpers saw him emerge as a power in this series. But he had been playing very well defensively, be that as it may. Kopitar again proving to be the model of consistency and production for the Kings as he has been all year. He was marvelous in the series with 3 goals and 2 assists, but again was a force on all ends of the ice. And with a goal and 4 helpers, Dustin Brown makes his case to the Conn Smythe Trophy candidacy with another great series. He has stepped up his game to a whole new level. And while he may not have made the top 3 scorers, Dwight King is an example of a role player thriving in these playoffs, as he's been an excellent force on the grind. He also led the team with 4 goals in this series. Justin Williams also continues to show why he's made for playoff environment, as did Mike Richards, who settled into more of a defensive role in this series and did very, very well with it. And credit has to go to the unsung heroes such as Trevor Lewis, who was oh so great on the faceoff, and adding 4 assists on his own right. And the OT hero, Dustin Penner, had another great series. Jarrett Stahl also continues to contribute. This Kings forward core is a well-oiled machine, moving perfectly without any real big squeaks. Kopitar's superb 2-way play being a huge factor, it's no surprise he led the team in the series with +5, and game in and game out shows the hard work ethic he possesses and takes his role as a team star forward with the utmost heavy approach. Drew Doughty again led all defensemen in scoring with a goal and 3 assists for 4 points, only this time he doesn't share the lead, and he too has got to be making his case for the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP, as he has been amazing in these playoffs. Rob Scuderi is playing some of the best hockey of his career in this series, as he was brilliant. Matt Green also continues to produce significantly, as Willie Mitchell hungers for his first Stanley Cup ring. Martinez and Voinov also playing and giving all they got. This team is really turning some heads, and you can see why. And of course, Jonathan Quick. What more can you say? While he had a little more help from his defense in the series than usual, he was still making amazing highlight reel saves game after game. He was incredible in the series, clinching Game 5, showing he can face these high-pressure situations head-on. His goals against average was barely above 1.5, staying the course that he has maintained in these playoffs. He truly is showing how great he can be as a playoff goalie, and oh, you best believe he's making his case for the Conn Smythe Trophy. So it now comes down to this. The Los Angeles Kings, who were only looked at as a team to fill a playoff spot, to be a sacrificial lamb, to be a mere small obstacle for an upper-tier team to beat. But as the 8th and final seeded team in the West, who with 18 games remaining in the season sat in 10th, now find themselves poised to compete for the big prize. They use a defensive system that has indeed been successful for them, but the top forwards have come alive and given them the scoring they need. And again, they underwent that big coaching change mid-season, and now Darryl Sutter has another chance to coach a winner. Since the 1-8 seed conference format was implemented in the 93-94 season, only one 8-seeded team has made it to the Stanley Cup, the 2005-2006 Edmonton Oilers, but they were eliminated in the 7th game of the Cup final. Jarrett Stahl was there for that, and he knows the anguish of that kind of defeat. The Kings also became the second team since that playoff format to begin to eliminate the top 3 seeds in the West to get there. The other was the Calgary Flames in 2004, a team coached by Darryl Sutter. But he too felt the agony of defeat in his 7th and deciding game of the Stanley Cup Final. He wants that cup ring oh so bad, much like his brothers Brett and Dwayne have achieved as players. Rob Scuderi and Justin Williams both have their names on the cup, while Mike Richards and Jeff Carter just 2 years earlier made it to the 6th game of the Big Dance with the Flyers. And for stars such as Doughty, Brown, Kopitar, and Quick, this is their first opportunity. And in a 30-team league, more than ever, you need to make the most of it, because you never know when, or even if, your next chance will come. For the city of Los Angeles, who appeals the pride of their Lakers, as well as the history of the Dodgers, and even success in football in the past with the Raiders and the Rams, the city had a lot to celebrate. But the false hope and sad history of the Clippers, plus the Kings' 45 years of failure, the dark cloud hovers over the Staples Center, it seems. But at last, the brightness of the California sun pales in comparison to the brightness that hockey has at last found in LA since Gretzky's departure. So here we go. The 2012 Stanley Cup Finals. Awaiting our heroes, a team that also was expected to be there, albeit not as much of an improbable run as the Kings, but they were the New Jersey Devils. The Devils, however, did exceed expectations in the regular season, finishing with a very impressive 102 points, which was still only good enough for 6th place in the Eastern Conference. Head coach Peter DeBoer put together an amazing season for a club that, again, nobody expected much from, like the Kings. They won a grueling 7-game series against the Florida Panthers, bounced the Flyers out in 5 games, and in a heated conference final battle with the Rangers, managed to shut John Tortorella up and beat them in 6 games. Their lineup was bolstered by one of the most talented scoring forwards in the game, Ilya Kovalchuk. Also producing at a high rate, someone remaining from their Stanley Cup days in the early 2000s, Patrick Elias. Also, one of the most talented forwards in that era, left winger Zach Parise. He also had Brantford, Ontario native and rookie Adam Henrique. Tough guy David Clarkson, who had a breakout year. And after 10 years away, veteran 2A forward Peter Sikora returned to the Devils, and he won a ring with the team back in 2000, and they got another while in Pittsburgh. He's still going pretty strong. Also 16-year veteran Daniel Zubris, big man Alex Ponikarovsky, and Trevor Zajac. They helped round out a rock-solid forward core. But what made the Devils such a threat in their Stanley Cup days was their defense, and while the names changed and they may not be as iconic, that part of the team was still very strong. The traditional stay-at-home style of Bryce Salvador, rookie Swedish import Adam Larsson, the hard-working Anton Volchenkov, and Andy Green. Yes, he is indeed the brother of Matt. And to top it off, in net, one of the all-time greats. As a matter of fact, he is the NHL's all-time leader in games won by a goaltender, the ageless Martin Brodeur. He brings his 3 Stanley Cup rings with him. Now in his 18th NHL season, he's ready for one more as he gets ready to play in his 5th Stanley Cup final. But the Kings are ready, and once again, they don't have home ice advantage, but they've thrived on that all through these playoffs. And now, it is time for the Stanley Cup. Game 1, May 30th, 2012 in the Garden State. It's a very disciplined game on both ends from both teams, and the Kings' defense and checking core is fantastic. Jonathan Quick has a lot of breathing room but makes those big stops. Midway in the first, however, the Kings get their first goal of the finals as Jordan Nolan sets up Colin Fraser for his first playoff goal. The Kings lead 1-0 and carry that lead into the intermission. Brodeur, however, stands his ground as often as he has in these playoffs and makes some monster saves himself as the Kings try to press and expand their lead. But as the second period winds down, Volchenkov scores and we are tied 1-1 after 2. In the third period, Doughty and company, as well as the likes of Stoll and top forward Kopitar, aren't giving the Devils much of a chance, while Brodeur continues to turn away everything the Kings throw at him, and the Devils' defense is also tightening up. And indeed, the first game of the Stanley Cup is headed to overtime. Midway through the first period, Doughty cleared the puck out along the boards. It landed on the stick of Justin Williams, who made a beautiful backhand pass from the boards to Kopitar, who went in alone on Brodeur, makes a nice little move. He scores! The Kings keep rolling and take the all-important Game 1. A huge game from Doughty and the Kings defense, while the grinders such as Penner help keep Kovalchuk and Parise at bay. And again, Kovalchuk himself only had 1 shot on goal. Kopitar is the hero, but the Kings' defensive system was what gave them the win above all here. Game 2, the Kings are eager to take both road games for the 4th straight series. Once again, both teams are playing good old-fashioned competitive hockey and careful not to take dumb penalties. The tension is simply battling for the puck. Both teams' defenses are again playing very well. And speaking of which, nearly 8 minutes into the game, Doughty takes control of the puck and makes an amazing individual effort, notching his third goal of these playoffs, and the Kings strike first. Once again, a tight checking game on both sides takes hold while Brodeur and Quick, when called upon, make the saves they need to make. But the Kings carry the 1-0 lead after 1. In the second period, it's a race for the puck, but neither team can get that big opportunity. And the Kings' strategy of tightly checking Kovalchuk and Parise are working magnificently. And again, Kovalchuk can only get 2 shots on goal the whole game. And the Kings cling on to their 1-0 lead after 2 periods. However, early in the third period, the Prudential center finally erupts when Ryan Carter, no relation to Jeff, ties it for the Devils. But again, neither team can get the go-ahead marker in regulation. And again, we are headed to overtime. Both Quick and Brodeur are on their game, as again both teams stick to their strategy. But nearly 14 minutes into this overtime period, Jeff Carter was speeding into the Devil's zone. His initial chance stopped by Brodeur, but he stayed with the puck, carrying it further outside, picked his spot, and scores the goal! 2 straight overtime wins. A magnificent play by Carter to win it. Once again, the LA Kings take both games on the road, and once again carry a 2-0 series lead headed home, and they are actually potentially halfway to winning it all for the very first time, and they now tie an NHL playoff record with their 10th win on the road, a record shared with the Devils, oddly enough, from 1995 and 2000, as well as Darryl Sutter's 2004 Calgary Flames. Unbelievable. Carter is the hero. Quick again plays amazing clutch goaltending. The Kings all around are like the unsinkable ship. And now we head to La La Land. Game 3. They are Cup crazy at the Staples Center. The first Stanley Cup final game played in that arena, and the first in Los Angeles as a whole since June 7th, 1993. Also, after missing most of the season, Simon Gagne is back in the lineup. The tight, tense playoff hockey takes hold in the first period, and both teams are protecting their goalies significantly. And both teams did that thing when called upon, however. So much so that the first period ends scoreless. But then in the second period, Grinders, Lewis, and King helped set up Alec Martinez for his first goal of these playoffs, and the Kings take a 1-0 lead as the Staples Center is shaking. The Devils continuously try to contain the Kings, but late in the period, here's that trio again. Just, Dust, Kopi, it's a goal! 2-0 Kings, and it stays that way after 2. Early in the third period, the Kings on a power play. Mitchell has the wheel, steers it to Richards, to Carter! He scores! What a series he is having, and the Kings lead 3-0. Then just 2:32 later, another power play. Kopitar gets it to Doughty, gets it to Justin Williams. The Kings lead 4-0. Quick holds them in the rest of the way. And this is actually their first Stanley Cup game victory at home ever. And boy howdy, the Kings are 1 game away from sweeping the Devils and winning their first ever Stanley Cup. Also, since the first time 16 teams qualified for the playoffs in 1979-80, the only team to lose just 2 games in a single playoff year and obtain the best winning percentage is the Edmonton Oilers of 1987-88, one of the greatest teams ever assembled, period. The Kings have already been making history, and now they have a chance to tie a record on top of being champions. Quick gets his 3rd shutout of these playoffs, and again, it's just amazing in net. Kopitar and Williams are playing awesome hockey. Doughty, simply magnificent. Stolpenner and King doing their thing, as both Parise and Kovalchuk have been pointless in this series. There's no stopping these guys. Game 4. Another packed house at the Staples Center. The LAPD is on alert in the streets for the potential celebration. I am not even kidding. The keepers of the Stanley Cup are in the arena. The players want it. Sutter and Lombardi want it. And the fans, after 45 years, want it. The Kings are prepared, but the Devils are ready to show they're not quitters. So here we go. The game is on, and again, it's competitive hockey at its finest. Both teams' defensive games are just too good. Both goalies are making those stops, and it's scoreless after 1. Second period, it's much the same. Nobody's really being giving any opportunities for the opposition, any room to work with, and nobody is getting many opportunities, and the few times they arise, nobody is capitalizing. It's still 0-0 after 2 periods. Oh boy, people's goosebumps must have geesebumps in LA at this point, and it's looking the same early in the 3rd period until close to 8 minutes in. Patrick Ilias scores for the Devils strike first, the first time the Kings have trailed in these finals, and one of the few times they have trailed period in these playoffs. However, 14 seconds later, the Devils take a penalty, and 46 seconds into the power play, a minute after the Ilias goal, tick, Kopitar, tack, Richards, toe, Doughty! Just like that, the game is tied at 1, and time is winding down. Summer Pomeroy, another OT is headed our way, but with 4:31 in regulation, Henrique scores for the Devils. The Kings are fighting with all their might to take the series in the sweep to win the cup at home. They pull quick for the extra attacker, and with 20 seconds to play, Kovalchuk breaks his drought and scores the empty netter. The Devils stay alive and take Game 4. This is indeed the 3rd time in these playoffs that the Kings would be stopped from sweeping a club at home, but disappointment is felt in the Staples Center and across LA as the celebration is delayed. The Kings didn't play bad here at all. The Devils just got hot at the right time, and they are still in this thing. But fear not, even though I'm sure Kings fans want to see this one at home, keep in mind they are 10-0 on the road and can also break the playoff road win record here. So now we shift back to New Jersey for Game 5, where the packed house at the Prudential Center still believes in their boys. And again, we are seeing what we've seen this whole series. Not a lot of penalties, disciplined play from both clubs. But the Devils, however, do indeed get a power play chance, and Parise breaks his slump, and the Devils take a 1-0 lead after 1. But 3:26 into the second, Matt Green gets the puck to Justin Williams. He scores, the Kings tie the game. However, Salvador scores near the midway point, and it's 2-1 Devils. Martin Brodeur, 40 years old, playing like he's 30 again, making big save after big save, and the Kings can't get a chance. It's 2-1 after 2. The Kings apply the pressure. Brodeur still shines, and the Devils play smart hockey. The Kings lose their first road game of these playoffs, and now only lead the series 3-2. What is going on here? Losing Game 4 was nothing new for this club, but now they're being forced into a Game 6, which hasn't happened yet in these playoffs. Now the heat has been turned up on the Kings like it hasn't yet in these playoffs, and many believed it might happen. Have the Devils exposed the Kings' weakness at last, like other teams have failed to do? The last time someone came back from a 3-0 deficit in a Stanley Cup final was when the Toronto Maple Leafs did it in 1942. As a matter of fact, up to this point, only the Islanders in 1975 and the Flyers just 2 years prior in 2010 came back to win a playoff series down 3-0. Game 6. We are back in LA, but the fans do not believe in a devil miracle in this city of angels. They believe in their own miracle story, and it will be complete here tonight. Martin Brodeur of the Devils playing in his 30th Stanley Cup final game. Here we go. The game is getting competitive to start. A 5-minute major is assessed to the Devils around the midway point. Power play! Richards! Doughty! Captain Brown with the goal! The Staples Center is crazy with joy, and we're off and running. Just 1:42 later as the power play continues. Richards again. Here's Captain Dustin, and here's Jeff Carter. Oh my goodness, he is playing amazing in these finals. 2-0 Kings. Oh, but wait, there's more. 2:16 later, still on that power play. Oh, there's that Doughty. Here's Dwight. And here's Trevor Lewis to finish it off. 3-0 Kings. And that's how it stays after 1 period. The Staples Center is overflowing with excitement and anticipation. And the Devils, who had the best penalty kill in the entire NHL, just allowed 3 power play goals. But then the Kings court, the Staples Center in LA, gets even louder. Just 1:30 into the second period. Kopitar to Brown to Carter! His second goal of the game, his 8th of these playoffs. The Kings lead 4-0. Quick is making the stops, and the defense is just marvelous. The Devils do get one back late in the period, but it's 4-1 after 2. Oh, here we go. The Kings are just 20 minutes away from reaching the very top for the very first time. And they play a very smart game in the third. A defensive system that won't allow the Devils to carry momentum. Careful puck possession and running down the clock. Oh boy, time is ticking down. The anticipation is growing. The crowd is stirring, getting louder and louder. 45 years of failure set to come to an end. The Devils pull rotor in hopes of a late game miracle. And with 3:45 to play, King and Stahl helps it up. Trevor Lewis, his second goal of the game. Empty netter, 5-1 Kings. The story made for a Hollywood is ready for a happy ending. Just 50 seconds later, however, Matt Green scores another exclamation point goal. 6-1. The crowd is loud. The city is ready to celebrate. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The Los Angeles Kings 2012 Stanley Cup champions. The most improbable run to a championship in modern history. They took out all three top-seeded teams to get there. They solved one of the greatest playoff goaltenders of all time in Martin Brodeur, and only lost 4 games along the way on this journey. They played like they wanted it. Game in and game out, they overcame weaknesses but still used their system to their advantage. In this Game 6, team captain Dustin Brown shined like a star. 3 points, playing his best when it matters most. Jeff Carter, again, was outstanding in the Stanley Cup Finals, scores 2 goals in this game. What a moment for unsung hero Trevor Lewis as he also notches 2. Doughty again plays like an MVP. Richards has 2 helpers along with him, as does King, who has been great in these playoffs. Team captain Dustin Brown lifted the cup like he's lifting the entire world over his shoulders, because indeed he holds the hockey world in his hands. He proved he was a tried and true leader in this moment. Plus the success that would follow would forever endear him to hockey fans in LA. The Kings showed sometimes it takes until the playoffs to bring it all together, and your regular season record doesn't always tell the full story. It's amazing, really. People love a good underdog story, but I'm sure Kings fans, and it's all the more sweeter when those underdogs play dominant hockey that you weren't even expecting. When your goalie shines, your defense works together, and those elite forwards you acquired along with your top stars that you already had shine at the right moment, even if the results weren't instant. Defenseman Drew Doughty led all scorers in the Stanley Cup Final with 6 points. He again was just playing on another level here. 2 goals and 4 assists. Kopitar completes his awesome playoff performance with 2 goals and 3 assists for 5 points, coming in second in scoring. And 4-way tie for third with 4 points each. Jeff Carter led the team with 4 goals, including that huge Game 2 OT winner and the 2 goals in the 6th and deciding game. Justin Williams proved he truly is tailor-made for playoff hockey with 2 goals and 2 helpers each. Captain Dustin Brown had a monster 3 points in the 6th and deciding game, totaled that with a goal and 3 assists overall, while Richards, who had an excellent playoff, had 4 assists total. This list shows all the big guns pulled their weight in every single way. And once again, the role players came up big. Dwight King and Trevor Lewis were amazing on the grind, but also notched a few fewer points here and there. Petter and Stahl were awesome in the defensive situation. Colin Fraser, as well as Simon Gagne, who, despite not receiving much ice time in his return, still helped significantly in the games he played in certain situations. The containment of Kovalchuk and Parise was on another level. So, of course, Drew Doughty led all defensemen in scoring with 6 points, and Matt Green led the team with a +4 in these finals. Both of these two were fantastic and the best defenseman in the Stanley Cup. Green's style was made for playoff hockey, while Doughty could rack up points but also play his position. Also playing his best series in these playoffs was Alec Martinez, who had really grown as a hockey player this past year despite missing many games in the regular season, while Scuderi, Mitchell, and Voinov, they all did their thing, and they did it oh so very well. Jonathan Quick was, of course, incredible. His defense in the series was helping, as they should, but look at this, a goals against average of 1.10. Where does this guy get it? He obtained his 3rd shutout of these playoffs, and with 2 victories in overtime, his clutch prowess was tested, and he passed with flying colors. And how good must it feel for head coach Darryl Sutter who was the mid-season savior, yet refusing to take credit for the team's turnaround, feeling that it was in them all along. Sutter had the shortest career among the 6 Sutter siblings who played in the NHL, and now 20 years since his first head coaching job and coming oh so close in 2004 with the Flames, he joins brothers Brett and Dwayne with a Sutter name engraved on the cup. And hey, Dean Lombardi, we take our hat off to you, the general manager of the Los Angeles Kings. For years, he has faced scrutiny mainly of how he ran the Sharks, and even his tenure at the Kings came under fire at times. But in the end, he found the right guys to make a champion, and he deserves that ring on his finger. And now we look at the final stats. Brown and Kopitar were absolutely on fire and literally had the exact same stats, both tied for playoff scoring for the Kings with 8 goals, 12 assists for 20 points. They were even both a plus 16. They both showed tremendous leadership. They showed spirit and heart. They were working hard regardless of what end of the ice they were on. Doughty was third on the team in scoring with 4 goals and 12 assists for 16 points, providing his effective offensive touch from the blue line. Justin Williams and Mike Richards proved their playoff savvy with 15 points each. While Carter's scoring touch was quiet in the first 2 rounds, he still played well defensively, but really came alive in the conference final and turned up even further during the Stanley Cup. Dustin Penner, in addition to his grinder role, also provided a bit of a scoring touch in a very big clutch role. Jared Stoll was key in the Kings' success, as was Trevor Lewis and Dwight King, the latter of whom also provided quite a few points. It was the play of these forwards, however, that were key in containing stars like Ray Whitney of the Coyotes in the conference final, or in the Cup final with Kovalchuk and Parise. Also, Kopitar and Brown's 20 points was tied for the playoff lead. Overall, 5 total Kings players made the top 10, including Doughty, whose 16 points put him in 5th and led all defensemen in the playoffs. Also, Williams and Richards were tied for 8th with their 15 points. And indeed, the best on the team with a plus 16 were both Kopitar and Brown, as their overall presence was felt in game in and game out. And yes, Drew Doughty, of course, led all defensemen in scoring, as mentioned. But the Kings' defense as a whole deserves credit. Matt Green showed how good he truly is in these playoffs and really stood out. Rob Scuderi brought that Stanley Cup experience with him, and it paid off in a huge way. And Willie Mitchell, who again the Kings had gotten a steal of a deal, continued his great year and provided a great deal of presence on the blue line. Rookie Slava Voinov capped off his first year in a big way, while Alec Martinez really broke out of his shell, especially in the finals. Also, that amazing plus 16 from Kopitar and Brown were also the best in the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. Doughty's plus 11 was 4th, Matt Green and Rob Scuderi's plus 9 was tied for 5th, and Justin Williams' plus 8 was tied for 8th. And man, really, what more can you say about Jonathan Quick? Huge 16-4 record, played every single minute for the Kings in these playoffs. His epic saves and clutch goaltending made all the difference. He was a wall. No matter how many shots he faced, he was reliable and worked well with his defense with immense communication. His goals against average was 1.41. That is utterly ridiculous, and meaning he allowed less than 1.5 goals a game. It was the second best in the playoffs. Corey Schneider of the Canucks was first. He led in save percentage, just 2 notches above Mike Smith with a psychotically good .946, and 3 shutouts as well. That was tied with Smith and Henrik Lundqvist. So now we ask, who wins the Conn Trophy for playoff MVP? You can make a case for both Brown and Kopitar, obviously, as well as Doughty. And they award it to... Was there ever any doubt? Jonathan Quick further proved how great he really is in these playoffs. He has been the most consistent thing about the Kings from the opening puck drop back in October all the way to the Stanley Cup in June. And as great as he was during the regular season, he upped his game even more so in these playoffs and grasped the difficulties of playoff hockey incredibly. As of this video, this Stanley Cup only happened 11 years ago, and many of the players were still very young. A lot of them are still active, as a matter of fact. So nobody is in the Hall of Fame yet from this club, though here are the most likely candidates. Enzo Kopitar is a 2-time Selke winner. He has won the Lady Byng Trophy, has participated in 5 NHL All-Star games, in addition to the Stanley Cup, has won another, and also has won the Mark Messier Leadership Award. As of the end of the 2022-2023 season, he has 1,141 career points, stays healthy quite often, and even as he gets older is still a model of consistency and is currently the captain of the Los Angeles Kings. Drew Doughty has proven to be an elite defenseman in his era. At 33 years old, he may still very well have 5 good years left in him. He has 2 Stanley Cup rings, is a 2-time second-team All-Star, 2-time first-team All-Star, a Norris Trophy winner as the league's top defenseman, 2 Stanley Cups, 2 Olympic gold medals, and while he did have a couple rough seasons recently due to injury and inconsistent play, this past season in 2022-23, he looked like his old self again. He has played in nearly 1,100 games, has 619 career points, excellent offensive numbers. Then there's Coach Darryl Sutter, who, despite his recent firing from Calgary as of this video, has coached nearly 1,500 games, has 737 wins, and is 9th all-time in coach wins. And he has 2 Stanley Cup rings, a Jack Adams Trophy for Coach of the Year to show for it, and at long last we may see a Sutter brother get into the Hall of Fame. However, Jonathan Quick, while very much possibly a Hall of Famer, and I certainly wouldn't mind him getting him, and I would certainly hope for it, is probably the most uncertain on this list. Now don't get me wrong, like I said, I'd be more than happy to see him put in. But the Hockey Hall of Fame is quite tricky when it comes to goaltenders, it seems. For example, Curtis Joseph, who has won 454 games in his career and is currently 7th all-time as of 2023, is not in the Hall of Fame. However, Quick does have those 2 Stanley Cup rings. He's a 2-time Jennings winner, a second-team All-Star selection, which was this year, and of course, playoff MVP, and played in 3 All-Star games. Joseph never won many individual accolades, to be honest. I was a little shocked to learn that. And never even made it to a Stanley Cup final, only made it to 2 conference finals. But then again, you also look at somebody like Mike Vernon, who finished with a very impressive 385 career wins, as Quick actually currently sits at 375, but he'll likely be settling into the backup role for the remainder of his career. Vernon played in 5 All-Star games, he did win the Jennings once, was a second-team All-Star once, and like Quick, has 2 Stanley Cup rings and a consummate trophy as playoff MVP. He's even played in 4 Stanley Cup finals, had more playoff success than Quick overall in his career. He's still not in the Hall of Fame, but like Quick, I would also love to see him enshrined one day. We shall see what happens. So that does it for our 2-part look at the 2011-2012 Los Angeles Kings from 8th to great. Please like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I'll see ya!